The Simone Feiler podcast, giving authors a platform. Welcome to the podcast.
Nick Barnsdall joins me on my podcast after 2 days recording his enlightening audiobook, Better Business, Better Life. I love Nick's philosophy of business, grounded in the belief of loving what you do first and foremost. Welcome, Nick Barnsdall.
Thanks so much. Thanks for putting up with me for the last 2 days.
Why you say that? How did you find your experience recording your audiobook?
Well, it was great. You made it a lot easier.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, hey, I don't actually physically read books very much anymore, and all my book absorption is audio books, and so I think it was a pretty important thing for me to do, but actually physically go through reading it out loud was a task.
Yeah, but you got through it, you got to the end.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
That's right, and very important material in there, so I'm glad that you did.
Well, that's the motivation, was the motivation for writing it, and the motivation obviously to get through the audiobook was to make sure that it's accessible for as many people as possible.
Yeah, exactly. So you touch in your audiobook about growing up in New Zealand with entrepreneurial parents, where you started working for them at the age of 10 in their takeaway shop. Why do you think that this was beneficial, looking back now, for your life's path?
By the time I was 10, their business had failed, but I spent a lot of my childhood in their takeaway store, and at 10 I got into working for other people, my next set of mentors. But I mean, I suppose the struggles that they went through, those early years growing up, the struggles that I saw my parents go through and the repercussions of the business not going well, it certainly has become a motivation, sort of, I guess, later in life to be able to then sort of, I guess, go back and backfill anyone that I can pass on the information that I've been fortunate enough to have a great, last 20 or 30 years in business personally. So, I guess sharing my experiences so that for other people out there that are maybe going through the experiences that my mum and dad would, maybe we can short circuit that and hopefully get them on the right path.
Sounds good. So apart from working hands-on in business, did you acquire any formal qualifications?
No. Less than that, actually. So no, I was not a great student. Due to my parents' business failure, I sort of got to work pretty early. Like both my mum and dad, once they split, they were started again from ground zero, or less than zero, actually. Mum really struggled financially growing up, and that got me out working as many hours as I could do to try and help pay the bills. And really that meant that work became a much higher priority for me, and in fact I enjoyed it much more because I found it much more rewarding than school. And so going and working as many hours as I could, even from a young age, from 10 or 11 as you say, I would always have 2 or 3 part-time jobs, and so that meant that I didn't really have a lot of time for school, and I didn't really have an appetite for it either because they weren't paying me. And hey, look, I think it's a
they
real.
They weren't paying.
So maybe if the schools paid kids to go there, they might get a better result. Maybe, I don't know. But no, look, I think the framework of the schooling system. Hey, it didn't suit me. I know it doesn't suit a lot of people. And, I guess I could see that at that young age, that working for other business owners, I could see the lifestyle that they had for, I guess what I wanted to do in life. Like school was just a lower priority for me. Like really the high priority was paying bills.
You were not a fan of school, were you?
I wasn't really, no. But they probably weren't a fan of me, to be fair, either. So it was all right. It was mutual departure.
That's right. Out of there. So, well, okay, obviously you've worked in business since the age of 10 or, thereabouts. Yep. So what kind of businesses have you had?
So I started my first business in 1994 was property development business, and essentially I was just buying. Look, I purchased my first property in 1991 actually. So I started investing in property really early on. I was 16 years old.
Wow.
By the time I was 19, I guess I made that more formal, and we started a property development business where we were just buying older properties and doing them up and flipping them. And I thought at the time that was a really great idea. And then later in life learnt to hold on to them rather than flip them. I've got a very heavy industrial background. I spent a lot of time in heavy equipment and that kind of industry around mining, quarrying, resources, civil construction. But also, as time went on, I just started investing in other people's companies as well, and because I'd had a lot of experience managing companies. I grew one company that I was co-founder of in 2003, which was Hyundai Construction Equipment Australia, which is an earth-moving importation distribution business, earth-moving equipment. And we grew that from 0 to over 100 million quite quickly,
Wow.
like from 03 to 03 to 08, so 5 years really.
Wow.
So
Maybe
yeah,
I
it was
should have
quite
a
growth.
chat with you about this business.
So you know, like that was a great experience because you're taking something from nothing, and there was, you know, started off 2 of us in the business, and then went to 5, and then went to 7, and then went to 12, and then, you know, we ended up with hundreds of staff and 20 odd locations with, you know, sub dealers and things like that around. So, you know, it was really a great experience. But everything in my life had kind of got to that, you know, prepared me somewhat to that point. You know, even though I was only 27 or 28 when we started that business,
Yeah.
I'd been in business for a really long time. I'd been in and around business. I'd always been given a lot of responsibility as a young kid in the businesses I was at. Like, you know, I was managing shifts and opening and closing businesses when I was 13, 14 years old.
Wowza.
So, you know, counting the till at the end of shift and doing stock takes and controlling stock takes, you know, out on the road selling, cold selling as a 17, 18-year-old, and, you know, really important skill in business. Sorry, going off topic, but really important skill in business is selling, and it was not something that particularly came natural to me. But, you know, I was very lucky that I was given an opportunity to work for a large Japanese office equipment manufacturer, photocopier company, and I did 4 years commission only selling, starting from 19 in that business. And I always look at that as my real training ground there, because if you can develop that sales skill, that's what everyone needs in business. Like, every business needs sales, every business needs revenue, every business needs the cash flow coming through that. And everyone wants to say that they're not a salesperson or pretend that they're not a salesperson, but the reality is, in business and in life, we all are, because we all want to steer the outcomes and the behaviors of our pet, our child, our partner, and that's a sales process. When we talk about, you know, I want to go to a barbecue or an event this weekend and your partner or spouse doesn't, then you go through steering that behavior. That's a sales process, and it's a critical skill that you've got to carry forward into business.
That actually is expanded on in your book, of course. I loved hearing you narrate the section about making a business out of what you love doing. It was earlier in the book. When was it that you first realised that to actually make business, you know, work best is that you really need to love what you do?
Well, I mean, it comes through in the results of the business, right? Like, I guess I've kind of reverse engineered it. I've never gone and looked to start a business in something that I was really excited about. I've always been fortunate enough that I've been able to adapt what I get excited about to whatever it is, whether it's working in a workshop or you know, photocopies, as I mentioned before, plumbing or industrial stuff, or earth moving equipment, or, you know, whatever it is. In fact, at the moment, I've got an e-commerce business that's in fashion is one of those, and, you know, like, that's not really my gig, but I develop a passion for it because I actually want to see the business succeed. So I'm fortunate that, you know, I've not started a business from having a hobby or something that I really liked, that then I, you know, develop it from that. What it is I actually love the process of being in business.
Yeah, that's right. That's your love.
I love being in business,
Yeah.
and watching something grow. Like, you're nurturing, it's you're nurturing something from nothing to something, and that's, you know, that's the world we live. Like, you know, if you're starting a business, you are creating an economy around that business and going to the point where you get generating enough revenue and profit that you can start to employ other people, maybe give them a pay rise, maybe give them a bonus, maybe donate to your local charity. You know, all of the things that you can shape around you by having a business that's successful and profitable. But so often people start a business just all about themselves. Like, I just need this amount of money.
Yeah.
Rather than, how can I affect as many people as possible? Like, you want the business to become the sun that all the other planets revolve around, right?
That's right.
How can they nurture everything else around that?
Yeah, you brought a good point in there, and I think from, you know, a lot of people that I've worked with, it's not about the money. If you're doing it for the money, it ain't going to work. You got to do it because either you love it or other people really need it and you love giving it to them. So what motivates you to kind of do this kind of work? Obviously, we're talking, you know, it shouldn't be financial. What is it that motivates you?
Well, hey, unfortunately, it's not a financial motivation. You know, with writing the book, and I've got a business education company, which is Navig8biz. And, what motivates me is that I feel like, hey, without getting too deep and spiritual, because that's not really my gig, but, I feel like we all are looking for, what are we on this planet for? Like, what is the meaning? Yeah. And I'm very fortunate that, I found something that I'm pretty good at. History will show that I'm pretty good at it. And so, what gives us the greatest amount of satisfaction in life is being able to help other people. Like, if you think about, it's the old adage is it's better to give than to receive. And, I'm sure it would be an unusual human on the planet that does not get a huge amount of satisfaction out of helping someone.
Yeah.
And in whatever way that is. And so I think when you can tap into what it is that you're good at, and then you can go, well, okay, how can I use that as much as possible to help other people? And that's what I've ended up doing is I've got, I literally woke up one day quite a number of years ago and said, hey, you know what I want to do? I want to help other people in business. I've grown so many businesses, I think well over, in 27 years, I've owned, bought and sold, invested in, acquired over 40 companies now.
Wow.
in my lifetime. And I still am either fully or partly owned and of at least 13 now as we speak today. There's a lot of experience that comes with all that. And so to being able to impart to it people that, to me represent what my mum and dad were all those years ago, and being able to help people in that same situation or just give them some insight, like whether it's that book or, listening to a podcast that we put out on a regular basis, or any of our information is just, if it can make their life better. Because if everybody's aiming their goals higher, producing at a higher level, and then they've got the opportunity then to pay that forward as well. Like people get stuck into, I get asked a lot, when is enough enough? Well, it's never enough, because there's always more people out there that need help. There's always someone else out there to help. So when people ask that question, I feel like it's almost a very selfish question, because don't they want more people to receive that help? No one ever asked that question to Mother Teresa, right? No one ever asked that question to Gandhi. Like, so why is each of us as individuals, why are we capping ourselves? Yeah. Like, you can always go and help more people. If you can't see that, it actually says more about you, because if you're keeping those goals low, then it becomes a selfish situation, because you go, well, that's enough for me to survive. Yeah, but who else can you help?
That's a beautiful way to look at it. I love it. So, better business, better life. How did that come about? I'm going to write a book. What am I going to do? How did that happen?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, for me, it's a natural progression on the basis of that. It was an ability to reach more people. Everyone's got a different way of learning. Like, hey, I've got a series of online, I call it business education courses, micro courses that we're going to help people. But that's not everyone's gig. Like, some people like to listen to a podcast like this. Some people want to listen to a book. Some people want to read a book. Like, everybody's learning is different. And so by able to put my information out there in as many different mediums as possible, means that I can reach as many as I can. So then, hey, there had to be a book. There had to be a physical book before there could be an audio book. That seems a natural progression, right? Yeah. So, it was really hard. Like, as a kid that left school at 15, and it wasn't very present for the last probably 3 years of that. So, I'm not highly educated. I always joke that the book is it's in large font and small words. So which represents my level of education. But it was, as I said to you before, there is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, and I'd say I've done a fair few things, particularly in the business forum. But it was really, really difficult for me to write that book. I had a lot of help with it. As you've given me a lot of help with the audio side of it, and but the motivation is just to get it in as many hands or get the information as many hands as possible. And many times I went through the book, as I was going through it, I was like, I don't need to do this, I don't want to do this, I feel like I'm back at school. And the thing that kept me going, it actually got me to finish it, is that if it's finished and it helps one person, if it helps them improve their quality of life, or keep their business open, or grow their business, or get their kid through school, or support their charity to a greater level, that one person, it was worth all the effort.
Awesome. All right, so obviously you're running successful businesses. You're also doing, alongside the other ones that you've mentioned, is Navig8biz.com. What would be the benefit of our listeners contacting you for support to grow their business through that?
Yeah, so 97% of all businesses, not just in Australia, but in most first world Western countries, 97% of all businesses are small business. And around 62 or 64% of all the businesses are owner-operators with a turnover of less than $200,000 a year. And so, but that's the hardest place to be, right? And so that's what, like, you talk about passion and a business. So that's Navig8biz is my passion project. So Joanne and I founded that company. So Joanne's my business partner, and she's extensive background in education and obviously successful in business in her own right as well. And it's our collaboration to be able to put a community out there where business owners can go, where, if you're in overwhelm, maybe things aren't going so well, maybe you're looking for some guidance, some help, some support. Like, that's what Navig8biz is about. It's about providing a resource for any business owners, no matter what size of business. But we say we're there to help small business owners because that's the market. That's where most people are that are really struggling. We know the failure rate of small business is horrible. The consequence of that, like, if you look at all of the really negative part of society, small business features heavily in that. Like, if we talk about suicides, domestic violence, bankruptcies, all of the really negative stuff that happens in our communities, it features super heavily in the small business community because of the stress, the inexperience. Like, no one teaches us how to run a business as we go through life. It's normally through some level of something's happened, some catalyst has happened. But we normally go through life where we grow up and our mum and dad are employees, and all we've seen is watch them go to work every day. And then we go to school, which teaches us to be good employees. We go to university, teaches us to be better employees. And then we go out and get a job and start our career, and we hone our employee skills. And then one day something happens and says, stuff all this, I'm going to go and start my business. And we've had no preparation for it. And so Navig8biz is the place that you can go to. We do a lot of stuff with the Small Business Association of Australia, with the Australian federal government, with Queensland state government, and trying to work with the other state governments as well, where we get that information in a nice, condensed, succinct way to people to be able to translate what it is you do in a big company, how you can do that in a small company and get out of that danger zone, get out of that owner-operator $200,000 a year, because often for many people it's a jail sentence, right? Like, you're just there, tied to the business, not enough money, always scraping, sleepless nights, I'm sick but I've still got to go into the business. If I don't turn up, no, the bills aren't getting paid, the doors won't be open, can't have a holiday, all of that stuff. And we just want to get people out of that zone. It's all back to front. Like, people need to get out of that but we've got 64% of all the businesses are in that zone.
Wow, that's huge. But if they come and see you, hopefully they can get out of that zone.
Out of that. Get out of that. Build a structure. Go for growth. Awesome. Like, why not? Like, we've got a choice every day. We've got a choice. We can either be small or we can be big.
That's very inspiring. So how can people find you? Where do they contact you?
So I'm on every social media platform, at Nick Barnsdall. For Navig8biz, if you're a small business owner, or you're thinking about starting a small business, or you're thinking about starting a business at all, whatever stage of business you're at, you can go to www.navig8biz.com, which is NAVIG8biz.com. Also at Navig8biz on all the social media platforms. We have the Business Without BS podcast. We've got tons of free content. We have an online streaming platform if you're looking for coaching or mentoring. $19.95 a month, 24/7, 365. You can get all our best bits that you can implement in your business.
Sweet, that sounds awesome. Well, thank you for coming in and reading your audiobook to me.
Well, thank you so much for guiding me through the process, and I really appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining the Simone Feiler podcast.
What's your story?
Contact Simone for a chat at brisbaneaudiobookproduction.com.